This is ZTE's Axon 40 Ultra. It has an under-display camera setup with it, and it's the new gen one. So looking at it closely, the screen, you wouldn't even know that it actually does have a 16 megapixel sensor behind the screen. The pixels cover it up so well that it's very difficult to make out. It's only really in direct sunlight that you can see it. Now this model here does have a 6.8-inch Full HD Plus screen, AMOLED, 120Hz. It is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. My review unit here that they sent out to me does have 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. It will be selling here in Europe for €829. This model has a 5000 mAh battery with 65-watt fast charging, and the camera setup on the rear, 364 megapixel sensors. So I'll be going over this in depth, and I'll let you know all the pros and the cons now in my time testing out the ZTE Axon 40 Ultra. Included with the Axon 40 Ultra, you'll find a TPU case. There is a 65-watt charger. It's quite a good, nice, small size. Type-C to Type-C cable. Some earbuds with a microphone. They're 3.5mm ones, but we do have a adapter too, so Type-C to 3.5. Why? Because, of course, it does not have a 3.5mm headphone out. Now this Axon 40, it looks a lot, to me, the design very similar to that of a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. You can see side by side, you'll see what I mean here. See the three camera modules, more or less in the same exact position, the same rectangular shape to them, the curved edges, and then the flat tops and bottoms of both of them. You'll see it looking at the screens right now too, that they look so similar. So this phone does weigh 204 grams. It's not exactly what I would call light. Fingerprint location, really good. I do like the way it unlocks. It's relatively quick and it is accurate. But the best part's the location. They put it there. So when you're holding it with one hand, you can simply just place your thumb there and not like others that have it a little bit lower. So the thickness of this phone is 8.4mm. We do have a bit of a texture on the power button, then the volume up and down button right here. Camera module does protrude out by approximately 3.5mm. So adding to that thickness a little bit. So the 8.4, of course, is counting here. And I like the material of the back of it. So the glass here is curved, but it's a little bit like the OnePlus 10 Pro that I've reviewed, the import version I did have from China, and also the Xiaomi 12 Pro, that it does have this shininess to it, the black, especially when you look at it in direct sunlight. You see how it kind of reflects the light. Now this is a matte glass finish, so it doesn't really pick up fingerprints, which is great. ZTE has put a lot of effort into these cameras, so we've got three identical 64 megapixel cameras. They are the IMX787. So here is a periscopic camera, 3.5 times optical zoom, then a 35mm equivalent main camera, and then a 16mm ultra-wide camera there. So dual-tone flash, microphone for the rear, and laser assist focus. Then the bottom of it, we've got these antenna lines, microphone, our SIM tray, which takes 2 nano SIMs, so no micro SD card support, and one of 2 loudspeakers. So you'll see again the similarities comparing it to the S22 Ultra here. Of course, it's got the stylus, which is right there, but even the layout where the loudspeaker is identical there. And the top, you'll see that we do have an IR transmitter and then that secondary loudspeaker, whereas you just have the microphone at the top there with the S22 Ultra, and you can see the antenna lines, of course, here and here. The phone isn't too bad to handle, even though it is a large 6.8 inches. Now, of course, not having that cutout there, it just looks so much better. So this is a phone for people that don't actually take a lot of selfies. I personally don't take a lot of selfies. You might not believe that, but I only take selfies just for YouTube and maybe Twitter. That's really it. So I'm not too fussed about it because there is a degradation in the camera quality because the pixels are in the way and the camera has to look through it, which I'll get onto later on when we see the camera samples and video samples from it. But that's just a bit of a spoiler there. But this is a really good screen. So it's a full HD plus resolution. The resolution is 1116 by 2480. So it's full HD. So it's not a quad HD screen. It's full HD plus resolution. It's super bright too. So it gets up to 1500 nits, and it can be made out in direct sunlight as you see right now. So no issues with that. And even in direct sunlight, you can barely see that it's meant to have a front-facing camera. The display, of course, does run at a maximum of 120 Hz, which I'm running the whole time. We get auto, so it'll swap between 60 and 120. But sadly, yet again, another manufacturer that doesn't give us the 90 Hz option. I really want manufacturers to start offering that because it is that sweet spot, that perfect in between battery saving and fluidity of everything. So there's a lot of things in here that you can adjust that are all typical that I won't go over, but we do have the settings you want, which is the color mode, temperature. You can then adjust and scale and tweak everything here to your own personal preferences when it comes to the white balance, color, temperatures, and if you want the display to look more saturated or more natural looking, that is all there. So gestures are working really well. This phone's UI is called myOS 12 from ZTE. Now, I've never been really a massive, huge fan of it, but I will give them credit where due with this myOS 12 that it's really well optimized. I don't seem to have any major bugs or anything that I've detected in my time now using it. So I do have 8 gigabytes of RAM with this model here. The gestures, as I mentioned, are detected really well, very quick, and the animations are all fluid and smooth. Going into recent apps here, that's quite quick. Normally, things will have to load in the background if you haven't used them for a while. If it's not a system app, that is. If it's like a third-party one, then you'll see it reload, especially when it's a heavy game or something, which is typical with Android. So no noticeable lags there with swiping down for the notifications for gestures, which I can't say about this, the S22 Ultra. However, it is getting now a lot better to this model after about 5 patches. It's taken them a while. This straight out of the box is performing a lot better than my S22 Ultra when it comes to the UI performance. So there are lots of different customization settings and whatnot that you can do with this one here, but I won't go over that because it is really quite self-explanatory. I'm sure most people know what these UIs are like. The options you do get, of course, with Android 12. It's all there, and it's just that performance I'm really happy with. I do take back what I said about it being bug-free. I have encountered this bug here where I want to swipe down for toggles, and I'm pushing really hard here, but swiping down doesn't do anything. I don't know what is going on. So I can swipe up but down, at least down from the very top, nothing. I'm able to normally pull down the notifications or then the toggles, adjust my brightness, and hello. The only way to fix it, it seems, is to turn it on and off. I'll unlock again, and now it should work. There we go. Okay, now it wants to work. Now, ZTE has done an excellent job when it comes to additional unwanted, really, applications that they've installed, pre-installed, bloatware, okay? That's not really present at all. There are the Google, you could almost say, bloat apps there that maybe you want to remove some of those. ZTE cares. That is really it. So that's amazing compared to other brands that have just so much bloatware. So well done. I like to see more brands doing this, just giving us the normal kind of typical stock Android apps, not all this junk like games and other applications and TikTok and all that stuff that you probably don't even need that's already pre-installed on there for you. No, not here. So at the time of this video, that actually isn't the latest update now. There's one that came through that was very small, that was only just under around 200 megabytes. And the battery charge time, so it's 65 watt charging with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 41 minutes to go from 12% to 100. You know what? That's good. Anything that's under an hour in my book now in 2022 is acceptable. I still think it's not the fastest out there, but I still think that's more than adequate to charge in 41 minutes. So the storage, I have 128 gigabytes here worth, and it's UFS 3.1 storage. We do get some very good sequential reads, and the writes are good, and the randoms, but these aren't the fastest I've seen. Normally with larger storage capacities, like 512 or 256, you would get slightly better random reads and writes, but by no means is this going to cause any slowdown at all with this phone. You can see here from the synthetic benchmark of course Antutu that it's fast. It is very fast at short bursts, but the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 is still in my experience. This really has not changed. It's a hot chipset. Went up 10 degrees just from that test. It really does need to be fan cooled like we've seen in the likes of, say, the Red Magic 7 or the 7 Pro. So here it's got a great peak performance. This is when it's cool. But then when it heats up, it really does slow right down. You can see throttling almost 40% the performance just to keep that chip set from overheating. So really quite a hot chip, of course, from Qualcomm there. So I don't know what's going on here, but there was a fail with the safety net. with our CTS profile match. So I do hope that that can be corrected there for people that need that for your banking apps. So we do have, I'm a broken record here, Widevine level 1 cert. And yes, Netflix will work in Full HD, but no, Amazon Prime Video does not. It's going to be standard definition until it's whitelisted. Hardware support here for Camera 2 API is full maximum. That's great. So Gcam ports, open camera. It's going to have full access to those cameras. And the GPS is typical here. I probably end up scrapping this in my future videos because it's always good now. The lock is very quick. It maintains the lock. It's good. Fine. Battery life. All right. 120 hertz. Fixed battery life benchmark here, sorry, at 200 nits calibrated brightness. Yeah, almost 13 hours. Just shy of it. Not bad at all, but real world use, you're looking around 8 hours, maybe a little bit less. That is better than my Samsung, which is not a surprise to me. So my Samsung actually gets 11 hours and 14, so a little bit lower. I'm only getting around 7 hours on-screen time out of this. I can squeeze about 8. But yes, okay, this phone does have a higher resolution. It's just for me, the Exynos chipset has not been quite as efficient as the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Audio now. So it does, of course, have active noise cancelling with voice calls. Voice calls sound fine, and you can use a Type-C adapter to plug in your favorite set of headphones. Now, the volume out of the Type-C port is very good. It's really loud, and overall the audio quality is great. Just like these two loudspeakers, they are powerful. They are really loud. They've got a little bit of bass to them and decent enough mids. So I'd have to rate these as definitely some of the better sounding loudspeakers you'll find on an Android phone. So here's a sample now, just a short track at 100% volume. Gaming performance is excellent, as you'd expect for 8GB of RAM and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. This game here, PUBG, is running on the extreme frame rate option. That's all it lets me have, even though it does support 120 frames per second. The screen, at least, it only allows me to run 60. So the performance, excellent, no problems. I already do have 2 kills here. But what I'll do is play now for at least a couple of rounds. We'll see how warm it's going to get, because already into this game now for about 5-10 minutes or so. I can feel quite a bit of heat building up around this area where the cameras are. So it's going to be interesting to see just how hot is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 going to get in the Axon 40 Ultra here. All right, I can clearly feel it getting quite warm. So it's up to about 43 here on the back, which is not too bad. I'll just flip it over. We'll take a look at the front of it. That's getting up to about 42, 41. Now, this is only just playing PUBG, but I've felt it get definitely warmer than what it currently is. So it will heat up that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Over to our cameras now. Video performance here. If you're shooting vlog footage, this is not really the phone for it. Now, it looks like, hey, Chris, clean the front of the screen. No, that's just what it's like, because that sensor has to look through and around those pixels, so it has this blurriness to it, and if you're in direct sunlight you even get like a bit of a halo around like a white shirt and clothes, and that is the downside to it. It does not have any electronic image stabilization either with the front facing camera, it seems, because it is shaking around all over the place. Rear cameras now, so all 3 of the sensors are the IMX787 with optical and electronic image stabilization. So looking at the tower here, the clock that is on top of the council building, if I try to zoom back, I cannot. So it won't automatically swap over to the ultra wide. This stability is looking very good here. The audio bitrate is 156 kilobits per second. And the ultra wide now, so this one's 16 millimeters. It does fit a lot into the shot. And we do get the optical and electronic image stabilization. So just jogging ahead, you can see it's actually working out really quite well there. The stability I do like with the camera. So this is 4K 30, you can shoot 4K 60 and 8K too. Now there is a little bit of room there, I think, with that low light performance that they could improve upon it, especially compared to ZTE's competitors out there. Now some of the stills as well I noticed were a little bit oversaturated, and at times I did have problems with the focus that I'd have to take the shot again. It's not like one of those camera phone setups that you can simply just take one photo and you know it's going to be great. Now I recommend definitely taking about 2 or 3 just in case one of them is out of focus. I did have a problem where if you get close enough to your subjects but not too close, it would struggle to decide what camera it actually wants to use. So it would swap between the ultra wide using a macro mode with focus, autofocus, to then the main camera, and would go back and forth, back and forth. That was a little bit annoying. And then I did have that bug where I swiped down from the top that I showed you and the toggles would not appear or notifications, and that's happened to me now a few times. Apart from that, the UI is very fast. It's stable, but that bug, yes. And the performance generally is really quick and good with this phone. Excellent loudspeakers. The battery life isn't bad. Charge time 65 watts. Will take you up to 100% in around 41 to about 45 minutes, which isn't bad at all. Now, I don't know about their updates, but I've already had a couple come through, but I don't know how long they're going to be going for. And price-wise, this model here, the 8GB version with 128GB of storage, going to be selling for 829 euros, which is, for a flagship, the spec of it I don't think is bad. So who is the phone really for? I think it's for people that really hate notches, cutouts, and you basically never use a selfie camera anyway. You don't take vlog footage either. Then you're going to have that full screen experience without the ugliness of the cutouts or the notches that bother you. However, if you're someone that takes a lot of selfies, takes a lot of vlog footage, this really clearly is not the phone to get then, because as you saw from my samples, even though yes, the tech is improving, and it's really good to see that they're improving the selfie quality, you're still going to get quality that is subpar and below a normal front-facing camera setup, especially for video performance. You're going to get that halo, that blurriness effect to it. There's simply no way to get rid of that just yet, because the sensor has to look around and through those pixels, really. So that's what is going to happen there, of course. So thank you so much for watching my review here of the ZTE Axon 40 Ultra.